architecture and preservation techniques, and you have an approach to food that is almost entirely centred around communal living. At the same time, running quietly alongside this and cementing the connection in our minds was our dopamine system, which responds as powerfully to a loved one as it does a meal. Somewhere along the way, our brains began to associate these feasts with the people we ate them with. Love became bound up with breaking bread, sharing it, and satiating our hunger for company as well as food. The extraordinary significance of this development has been the lifelong specialist subject of Martin Jones, a professor of anthropology at Cambridge University. In his seminal book, Feast: Why Humans Share Food, he observed that to any other species, our practice of eating together, exposing our teeth, making direct eye contact, sharing food, would seem risky. But at some point, our own ancestors turned those danger signals around and transformed them into the very essence of conviviality that defines humanity. Once just, merely necessary fuel to fight for and over, food became a medium of communication and social bonding. He continues, "We now use the shared meal to punctuate the day, celebrate the great occasions of life, make transactions, and define who is inside and outside any particular cultural group." This profound connection between food and love was with me in my grandma's hotel kitchen. It was with me every morning when my brother Nicholas and I snuck into our parents' bed for hot chocolate. It was with us post our parents' divorce, when food became a vital means of smoothing over the cracks and forging new families out of step-parents and step-siblings. And it undid me in Pizza Express when, aged 16 and beset with eating disorders, I had a hotly anticipated date with Charlie, captain of the boys' school rugby team, and popularly considered by the girls to be a solid 8 out of 10. "I'll have a chicken Caesar salad, please," I whispered. "Without, chicken. Or dough sticks." Charlie looked at me, perplexed. "Is that a thing?" he asked, ordering himself cheesy garlic bread, pizza and dough balls. I don't know that my comprehensive rejection of sustenance was the reason I didn't secure a second date, but I do know now that one cannot love someone who doesn't love themselves, and that there is scant self-love in someone who denies themselves warm shredded chicken and batons of buttery dough. This tortured relationship with food would follow me throughout my teens and 20s. As eating has nourished my relationships, so my not eating has threatened to sabotage them. Reading and writing about food, first for Borough Market's magazine and website, then for a whole range of magazines and newspapers, has been a large part of my recovery, and it is out of this contradiction and evolution that Hungry Heart has been born. I have found food is inextricable from, even equivalent to, love, to the point where knowing where food ends and love starts feels impossible. Discussing this book with relatives and friends, I found almost everyone had an anecdote to share, a view to voice, a recipe that reminds them of a particular feeling or relationship. "I've got a recipe from every man I ever dated," a family friend once revealed. And while you've got to admire her zeal, you don't have to be as gastronomically thorough as that to see how your eating patterns have been shaped by a culinary composite of family, partners, colleagues, faith, and friends. Hungry Heart is not a definitive guide to food and love. Even if such a definitive guide was possible, I am neither old enough nor experienced enough in either subject to write it. Nor is this an academic book, although I have cited the odd expert where relevant to the story I'm telling. For the most part, Hungry Heart is largely born of my experiences, interwoven with conversations I've had with friends, fellow food writers, and family members along the way. Traversing from Grandma's hot plate through my parents' divorce, I've explored the formative influence of family in what we eat, when we eat, and who we tend to eat with. I've looked at friendships, for in an age where personal and professional pressures have reduced the majority of our interactions to taking place on the internet, we're increasingly combining IRL FaceTimes with meals. I've touched on religion, not just feast days, which unite those with faith and without around the table, but tabooed foods.